Know what time it is? It is 1 p.m. And that means that it is tipping points and puzzle pieces. It must be Wednesday. Yeah, it is the best hour of your week. So, as you know, our host is Mark Boatwright-Frost. Let's go ahead and give him his due, which would be a hearty round of applause.
Woo!
How you doing there, Mark?
Well, other than after that applause, I needed tequila, but I'm doing really well today. How about yourself, Marwan?
Well, I'm blessed and highly favored as usual. It's been a very productive morning, so I'm really happy about that and pleased. And I always look forward to our Wednesdays. So I see
Yep.
you have bridges and foundations in the background.
Yes, I do. So we're going to be talking about bridges and foundations, but before we start, I do want to do a shout out for next week
All right.
because it's different. First of all, we are not going to be doing this format. We are going to be at the New Horizons Ministries live for next week.
Ooh.
We have invited several of the people running for county commissioner to join us for for the tipping points and puzzle pieces. And for those of you going, wow, what's that got to do with tipping points and puzzle pieces? Well, that's what you're going to find out next week. We're going to be laying out a little bit of a different format. We're going to be talking about what the future can look like and one possible vision of the future. And we're going to ask the county commissioners to talk about how Kitsap County can be more of a human infrastructure for people.
Okay. That sounds pretty exciting. Are people actually able to attend if they just want to watch it in person?
I don't see why not, but they have to understand that it's really about the commissioner's answers and the vision that we're painting out. So this is not going to be quite as much of a free form. Ask a question and we'll get right back to you on it. At least I don't see it that way. What do you think?
No, I agree with that. So what you're saying is it's more of a already not a scripted dialogue, but there's a conversation that has already been pre-planned.
Right.
All
And I'm
right.
very interested in looking at their listening to their answers to this. We've met Laomi and we met Jeff at the pancake
Mhm.
breakfast. Hey, Rev. I met with Josh Hinman last week on Friday, and we spent a significant amount of time talking to each other. And he's very interested in attending. I have not heard back from Axel and I don't have contact information for Katie yet. But I'm going to reach out to them and ask them if they want to stop by and be part of it as well.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, we definitely want to do that. You know what's interesting, and I don't know what your thought is on this, but inviting the current commissioners, because I mean, maybe not so much Ed, since he's on his way out, but the other two are going to serve with whoever's elected, correct?
Yeah, but we only have an hour, which is my biggest concern about it. So I'm kind of thinking that we want the people who are going to be stepping in to look at the future and where that heads.
You know what? Maybe next Wednesday might need to be a 90-minute show.
I don't know. That's an option. What does the audience think? Go ahead and chat about whether you could hang for 90 minutes if you are getting interesting information from county commissioners.
Yeah, I just think my thought on that is, let's say we get all five, and if you were to, but
It would
aside
be
from the two of us,
it would actually be seven
seven. Oh, goodness.
because we
So
have Laomi, we have Jeff, we have um, Josh, we have Axel, we have Katie, and then we would have Charlotte, and we would have I'm blanking Robert.
Builder, yeah. So
Yeah,
you're talking about 8 minutes per person for that hour. I definitely would say we would need to go a little bit longer than that. That's always kind of been my concerns with, or my critique on town halls and conversations. It's like right when it's getting good, or someone can't really give a really good answer. I'm hoping. I mean, we're probably going to talk with these folks more than just this once, but I'd love to see politicians actually answer the question that they're being asked, and not waffle and go off
and
into some tangent.
And in this particular instance, we're going to be talking about the future of Kitsap County, a different future for Kitsap County than the one we have now. And, I'm interested to see what they have to say about what that future can look like and how we can get there, which is a question I always get asked. And I actually asked, and I cheated a little bit, though Laomi and Jeff also kind of got a sense of what we're doing. But I talked to Josh about it, and I said, so this is where we're heading with this, and this is what we see as an issue that has to be addressed. And his question to me was, how do we get there? And I said, well, let's
Mm,
have a conversation about that.
yeah. All right. So they're pretty excited. You got the Rev saying he wants it for 2 hours. So that's great. Well,
All right.
we're in the microwave society. So, dialogue, the coming together, the bringing the puzzle piece, that piece is important.
Yes. And we are bringing more puzzle pieces to the table all the time, but we can't get a picture of what the future looks like until the most amount of people bring pieces that they can, because if well, the future is written by those who show up,
Mm-hmm.
and in this case, for us to have a human future, we need a lot of people to show up.
Mm.
We need the most diversity we can get so that we can look at a real picture and not a picture of the few who want specific things, because we already have that and it's not working very well for us.
Facts for sure.
So let's talk about today's subject then, because that leads right into it.
Jump on in.
For the last probably 12 episodes, and we're at episode 24 now, shout out please. Episode 24. And we are at a point where we have said over and over again in multiple ways that we are at a point of choice. And we cannot depend on the government to change things for us. We have to come together and figure out what future we want. And part of that is figuring out what we don't want, and we see a lot of that around.
Mm.
So in order to get from where we are to where we're going, would that not be a bridge? We have to build a bridge from where we are today to a human future. And we can talk long and hard about a human future, what that looks like. But until we have a lot of pieces in the puzzle, the pieces of the table, we won't know what that looks like.
Mm.
We'll have pieces of it, but only pieces. So if we're going to build a bridge, that bridge has to sit on a firm foundation. So we have foundations on which to build a bridge, on which to get to a future where humans can thrive.
Mm.
Not a few humans, but all humans. So what we're doing and what we're talking about today is the Kitsap Resiliency Project is about building a foundation. And that foundation includes the puzzle pieces, it includes the edges of the puzzle, but it's basically getting people together and figuring out what materials we have so we can build a plan to build the bridge. And that bridge has got to go on a firm foundation, and we don't have a firm human foundation today. So we have to build one. It's the first step. And what if I said that changing things into the future doesn't require people come out with pitchforks and torches and going after the rich people or the politicians, but it's just about having a neighborhood barbecue, coming together to talk to each other, finding ways to support each other when times are getting harder and harder. And in the last several episodes, we pointed this out. Water shortages are happening in the Southwest. California's agriculture is on the risk of failing. We have climate change. We have Cascadia rising. The housing market's crashing. And I've got a question for you, Marwan, and anybody else out there on this in a moment. There are all kinds of dominoes falling, and we are not prepared to overcome the issues that are arising. And we've seen the prices going up. And the question I always have in the back of my head when I wake up first thing in the morning to get going is, how much pain is it going to take before people realize they have to come together?
That's my question. A lot.
Yeah, both of us talk about this
Mhm.
off screen. Here's the question I have for you. I'm just about 65 years old, and I've seen housing markets do what they've been doing. I've seen them crash. The one thing I don't remember ever seeing is rents going down. How about you?
Uh, yeah, I can't remember a time when rent has decreased. No.
So if the markets crash, the housing markets crash, and people aren't building as much, I can see the argument that there's fewer houses and rent's got to stay high. But if we're in a situation already where we don't have affordable rents for people, what's the outcome for that?
Well, more homelessness, more hopelessness, an increase in violence. Um, yeah, I think those are some of the top three right there.
And there's a lot of people that are really concerned about this, but I think that we need to bring people together as part of the foundation we're building to start visioning where we're heading in the where we can be heading in the future, and think a little bit outside of the box about how we can create a platform for affordable housing to happen.
Yeah.
Because I think what we're told frequently and what we've seen people who are concerned with this get caught up in this web of asking the wrong questions of the wrong place, and feeding into what exists when we really have to find something that doesn't exist yet and create it,
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
I think that makes sense.
So part of this is I'm inviting people, and I'm sure Marwan will join me with this, to join us at the table, bring your pieces, but also join us at the table and bring your ideas. There's a lot of things that I am good at. There's a lot of things, way, way, far much more than I am not. Far many more things that I am not good at. And one of the things I don't know is where we're going to go, but I know that there's a solution, and I know somebody or some group of people can come to the table and start a conversation, and we will have a solution.
Hmm. Can I give a tangible example of me doing that this morning?
Sure.
So just quickly, I met with the Salvation Army this morning because I wanted to let them know our neighborhood barbecue is this Saturday, downtown Bremerton.
Yep.
I guess it's right outside of downtown Bremerton, right by Salvation Army. And so I wanted to let them know we were going to doing this neighborhood barbecue.
2 o'clock,
And
right?
no, it's going to be at 12
12.
because we
Okay.
wanted to make sure, and that's why the time has changed. I needed to inform
Okay.
you. It's
Okay.
at 12 because that's when they feed the folks that stay at Salvation Army and other folks that are experiencing food insecurity and homelessness down in that corridor. So it's like, okay, we want to make sure that folks have the best opportunity to get fed. So what would be the best time? So we're going to take over that lunch hour, and so we're going to feed everyone at Sally's and everyone outside of Sally's, that may have been kicked out or don't want to stay there, whatever the case may be. And in our conversations, COVID is still a thing, right? And you've got community living there. And fortunately, KCR has been really helping folks that are experiencing homelessness and being able to put them into motels and hotels of that nature. However, most of them are in capacity in their field, and so they don't really have a space of COVID. But they can't keep them there at Salvation Army, and there are no motels or hotels to put them in. So I was wondering, because they're always going to kind of need this thing, could they rent maybe a 5-bedroom home and keep that? It would be cheaper for them just to continue to rent it out, and because of the way the format goes, you have 2 or 3 folks in a room, so you could put 15 bodies in there. Um, and I'm looking at it as numbers, so excuse my
Right.
wordage in bodies. But one, it it would give them a space to be, right? We're trying to solve the problem
Right.
now, immediately, and that wasn't brought up as an idea. So that's an example of maybe it could be done, maybe it can't. There is some funds, but there isn't any availability. So maybe renting a house would be the way to go.
Okay. Yeah. And that brings up another question. And my information's old on this, but it keeps pinging in the back of my head. When the mortgage crisis happened, banks in this area, I think the last I heard, were sitting on 200 homes, and just sitting on them. And God knows what kind of repair they're in or ill repair they're in at the moment. But as far as I heard the last time, they haven't been sold or nothing's been done with them. Perhaps that's a way you could look too, to go to the banks and say, we will give you some money to and maybe help fix the houses up, so that we can put people in those houses to take care of this. It's
Yeah.
just a thought. I mean, again, I don't know what the status is, but that's just me spitballing and thinking about, if I was going to put something on the whiteboard, I would find out what the status of those homes are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, I'll remember to bring that up with my conversation with housing at 3 o'clock.
Okay,
Because
excellent.
all these things definitely go together for sure. But yeah, I just wanted to give that example. So continue there. Sorry that I took us down that rabbit hole there for a second.
Yeah, no, that's part of the conversation about the infrastructure. We need to house people. That's part of the infrastructure. If we're going to build a bridge to tomorrow on a solid infrastructure, we need to have an infrastructure that takes care of people and puts people first. And not housing people, not taking care of them when they have COVID, which puts everybody at risk,
Mm-hmm.
is just the wrong way to go. We need to actually start paying attention to this, because the problem about what creates homelessness is much bigger than we talk than the talking points that people put out about it. And I will say this, this is my personal opinion, and I will share this as my personal opinion. So if you don't hate on Marwan, don't hate on the program, don't hate on Kids Up Resiliency Project, hate on me. But we've had a view for a long time, and media uh, keeps pushing this idea that people who are homeless are drug addicts and or crazy or all of these various things. And I will say that if I were in their position, if I wasn't um, cognizant to start with, if I got into the situation and it was just helpless and I couldn't do anything about it, I would be considering drugs, and I would be considering and my mental state would not be healthy very shortly after I was in that situation and I saw no way out.
I think that's absolutely fair.
And so, it may not be that they were that way. The mortgage crisis caused a lot of homelessness. People made some bad choices based on what they thought was a good choice at the time, and they ended up losing their homes.
Well, I think that was a small percentage. You have
Yeah,
predatory lending and a lot of other things that were going on also.
yeah, and balloon payments and all this stuff that I heard about. I when I worked in Silicon Valley, the one of my coworkers, a woman who's very young, she was in her 20s at the time, was looking at her stock options and talking to real estate people. Now, stock options aren't stock you own; they are options you have that you can purchase at a fixed price that will bring you theoretically bring you benefit in the future. And she was talking about using her stock options to purchase a home that she could not afford.
Mm.
And at that time in Silicon Valley, the homes were $1 million and more for even the, basic condos. And I was listening to this, and I was starting to do the analysis and figuring out that the dot com bust was coming. And I tried to explain to her that you really don't want to do that. You don't want to put yourself out there like that, because it's just too big a gamble. And she didn't want to hear anything that I had to say about it, because I wasn't, you know, uh, um, a rich person that invests a lot in stock market. I said, it just seems like a bad idea. And she lost her home.
Well, I can get it from her perspective. I mean, you don't go to a fat person to lose weight. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I think that's fair.
yeah. So anyway, it's a matter that people are making decisions based on the assumed wealth that was coming, and that the tech market was going to get them, when you can't really assume that it's going to continue to be successful. You can't assume that our economy is going to continue to be successful. And if you do, you're ignoring the fact that our humanity, if you're looking at getting rich and your brother, to be a little spiritual here, if your brother is suffering, then where are you really at? We have to take care of each other. And I know that's not for people who are trying to climb the corporate ladder. That's not a popular viewpoint, but we have to take care of each other. And if we aren't taking care of each other, then who's going to have our backs when it turns bad on us?
Well, I think unfortunately more and more people are finding that out every day. And, when you look at the places where people would go, charities, churches, they're cash strapped, they're resource strapped. They're not able to do it. I was having a conversation again with Salvation Army, and one of their organizations used to provide meals for Sally's. Well, COVID hit, and of course, that created a financial strain on so many organizations. And post COVID, they weren't able to keep it going. So now they only do it once a day or once a week, and that's all they're capable of doing.
Yeah, and people can't eat just once a week.
Right.
So yeah, there's and let's be honest, food is getting more expensive. The quality of our food has been declining for almost 70, 80 years. Um, there is food shortages coming in our very near future, and climate change has a lot to do with that.
Hmm.
And it's something we aren't really addressing. So, and we need to start addressing it, and we have to do it together.
Well, there are folks that are sounding alarm bells. Now, there are a few, but the folks that are the decision makers don't seem to be listening.
Well, it's hard. God, it's going to be so cynical of me, but okay, I am not a terribly cynical person. I think Marwan would back me to say I'm a fairly optimistic person.
Just let me put
But
my coffee
it,
down first.
yeah, it's hard to make good decisions when your finances are based on you making bad ones.
Mm, okay.
And I used to work with a guy who was a political operative, Republican political operative of all things. And he said that basically, this is his opinion, and I've always kind of kept it in the back of my mind that by and large, a brand new congressperson coming from a district will be have 6 weeks before they are in the pocket of somebody.
Hmm.
Now, I have no idea if this is true or not, but it's something to keep in mind. And when you need money to be reelected, that's a fairly easy argument to make. Who's going to contribute to campaign to keep you elected? But we're not here talking about politics. But that brings up to the point that politics and politicians aren't going to solve this problem. We have to solve the problem, and it's overwhelming and huge, and it's changing the world. Oh my God, how can we do that? And I just want to simply say, you can go talk to your neighbor. You can have a barbecue. You can come become a community ambassador, and Marwan and I will come out and cook burgers for you, or Marwan's team will come out and cook burgers for you, and we'll come out and have a conversation and help you connect with your neighbors and talk about community gardening and all of these good things. And that's the starting point. And from there, we can build anything.
No, I wanted to share something really quickly, and I think this really speaks to uh, what we're the challenges that we're facing right now. So while you were speaking, we're talking about food shortages and things of that nature. I just decided to Google it, right? And you and I will have conversations on, where do you find credible information and things of that nature. And so I'm just going to share this really quickly here. And so I just Googled it in here, and I just typed in food shortages, as you can see. And you're looking at the cleanlabelproject.org, USDA.gov. And then it came down to the third one, which was from fortune.com. Scary headlines about food shortages are misleading, and here's why. And when I clicked on that, what it said is, hey, there's three reasons why they're doing it. One, they're conflating access and affordability with availability. And I would say, they're playing with words here, right? If
Yep.
I can't afford it, it's not accessible.
Right.
You know what I mean? So then, yes, there is a food shortage because I can't afford to pay for the food that I need. So, when folks kind of are reading this information, it can be really easy to say, oh, well, it's not really what it is. It's not quite that bad. It's like, yeah, no, actually, you need to really
It's so
investigate what it is you're reading. Think about it.
yeah. So if you go to the KidSep Resiliency Project and you on the website www.reseco.org,
Mm-hmm.
and you go to, and actually I'll put it up there for you, Marwan, so you can cut and paste it. I will take you to the page and show you where. Part of all of the pages about projects have news articles that we researched to have these to seriously talk about all of the real information about what's going on. So if you go to one of these pages, you will see the news articles about this that aren't. Hold on just a second. I can't apparently do two things at once.
I'm at the website if you want to just navigate
Okay.
me there.
Okay. So if you go, let me bring this up. All right. So if you go to Innovation for All Challenge, and the first drop down is creating a human world, key issues identified, infrastructure, and you'll see food in that drop down window. Just go there.
Whoops. I went too far there.
Okay, infrastructure.
Infrastructure. Oh, then food. Okay, I see.
Okay, yeah. So if you go there, and if you cruise down that page, we talk about food, we talk about the issues with food, and then you'll see a section below this that are just articles that we've researched, dominoes and dots, food crops, nutrient fluctuation. These are articles about what's going on with agriculture that we've researched. Now, one of the things about finding the first three in Google,
Mm-hmm.
remember corporations have teams of people to bury stuff and to provide misinformation so that you don't go back. And a great example of this is, and I wish I could find the original article. It's in one of my clipulars that I don't have access to anymore. But a mother had children that had significant issues, both behaviorally and health-wise, and she kept going to doctor after doctor after doctor about it. And finally, she forced them to do a lead test on it, and they determined that both the children had lead poisoning. And she goes, how is this possible? And why didn't you give them the test to start with? And he said, because lead poisoning has been eradicated for 10 years. Oh. And so we don't test for it anymore. It turns out after that happened that 1 in 4 children have lead poisoning in this country.
1 in 4?
1 in 4.
Wow.
Which causes permanent damage that is violence, attention, all of these various things. Ability to learn, all of these things are affected. Now, the reason that we thought it was eradicated because Dutch Boy and several other paint companies got together and put a multi-million-dollar campaign out about how they'd taken care of all of the problems. Except that they really hadn't. It was just a marketing campaign.
Mm.
That happens all the time. And they have people sitting on the internet and people employed in newspapers and magazines that immediately put out articles to come to the top, and then they use all the tools to bring it to the top. So when you go looking, you find the initial piece. Now, does that mean that all the other articles are correct? Absolutely not. But you can find legitimate articles if you go down far enough, but who has the time to do that? Which is why we put those up there for you so you can look at them and see a wide variety of articles from different legitimate newspapers and journalists about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And this is also part of building a foundation for a bridge to the future. Real information and real understanding of what's going on and not somebody's profit margin.
So there's good stuff here. Just to navigate again, you can go to roseco.org. And once you get there, you can go to the Innovation for All challenges here. And there's a drop down that says creating a human world. You've got your key issues, infrastructure, and then food. And you can click on water, power, shelter, and connection. For the one with water, Did you see the article or the news that came out that they let the politicians off in Flint, Michigan?
No, I did, but I heard that there were some things going on with Flint that were unfavorable to people. Um, we okay. Recently, Mayor Wheeler at a council meeting was talking about the city of Bremerton having won an award for their wastewater treatment plant.
Hmm.
And then if you listen to close enough, out of all of the cities that were up for it, essentially about half of them won that award. And the award is essentially saying your system works within parameters. Nothing to scream about. But hey, you like the punchline. Here's the punchline of that. The only reason the Bremerton wastewater treatment plant works so well is they got sued by the Puget Sound keepers for dumping sewage into Dyes Inlet and
Oh,
Sinclair Inlet rather, and they got sued $50 million to revise the plant and separate out the stormwater and the wastewater aspects of it so that that doesn't happen anymore. But that's not the only plant in Kitsap County. As a matter of fact, most of the plants in Kitsap County do not separate out the stormwater and the wastewater, and there's a dumping of sewage into our waterways by all of these plants because they go the cheapest way, not the best way.
so if I go fishing at Illahee, am I getting wastewater fish?
Sometimes, after a big storm, you might have.
Mhm. Okay.
So these are things that you got to know. Well, you don't have to know, but somebody should be providing that information. It would be really wonderful if we had a newspaper in Kitsap County that did provide that kind of information, and did some journalism. And I don't really want to knock the various papers we have here, but they are not heavy on addressing things that need to be addressed for the health of the citizenry here, which is part of the foundation too. We have to look at this stuff, and people have to be. We're having a meeting with potential commissioners next week.
Mhm.
We have to start electing people that have our human interests at heart, or it will never change. You want to see politicians do something for us? You have to elect politicians that are willing to do something for us.
So give us a booster shot, Mark. I think we need it. I know I need it. So when you have whistleblowers in Flint come forward, and the protest and the marching and all these years, right? This was during the Obama administration, if I'm correct. That this. Uh,
Sorry, Michael. Michael posted.
don't eat nothing. Oh, that's right. He doesn't like seafood. um, but I think Flint first became on the national scene during the Obama era, and it seems like one of the tactics that they do is they'll kick the can down the road, and when there's other things going on, Roe v. Wade and Ukraine, whatever, it's like, we're just gonna go ahead and let these guys off. So folks actually mobilized. They came together. They brought their puzzle piece. They demanded justice, and then at the end they didn't get it. So give us a booster shot on how we continue to stay in the fight and be even more invigorated with an outcome like this.
Okay, so I can't give the booster right away. I have to actually touch on a couple other things first. First, protest is a one-time thing. People show up to protest because they're angry. They get out there, they carry their signs, they feel like they've done something. And politicians and corporations and whatever powers that be know that once people go home, they're going to forget about it. And then they let enough time go by and put enough, I love this word, obfuscation. You use enough obfuscation, and eventually you're going to see them get off. But more importantly, and this is something that has been talked about a lot lately, and we don't talk about it much here, but we have been moving in the direction of authoritarianism in this country. And there is a branch of government or a group of people in government that think that they are untouchable and that nothing matters. And we are a TV culture. We expect things to be solved in 30 minutes. We go out and we protest. We write a letter to our congressman, and we're not seeing anything changing. So you have to ask yourself after 20, 30, 40, 50 years of that, is it working?
Hmm.
So again, we're going back to the foundation. Go talk to your neighbor. You may not agree with anything politically, but I bet you agree that you like food. I bet you agree on things that are human, basic things. You agree that, being able to feed your family and feed the people around you are probably a good thing. You can talk about that. You start there and you build on to things that are more human, like wastewater treatment that isn't polluting the fish in the water, so that when you go fishing, you end up with something you don't want. These are things you can build on until you have a grassroots network. Once you have a grassroots network of people dedicated to change, it's
Hmm.
not a one-time thing. It's a movement that are going to get people elected who will actually do what need to happen. And we're already starting to see this to some degree. The progressive movement is about people who care about people. And that, I mean, whatever political things you talk about, the right or the left or anything else, when you elect people who care about people, you get change.
Hmm.
Keep it simple. Keep it about people. Don't talk about right, left, blue, red, purple, whatever. Though I'm wearing purple today, just to say. Keep it simple. Keep it about people. Keep it about humanity. Keep it about feeding the people, sheltering the people, clean drinking water. Keep it about quality of life, not some condo or mansion or a trip to the Bahamas or whatever. Real quality of life where you are, where you like where you live and you're happy. And you don't feel like, you're going to lose everything every 10 seconds. We built this argument up for a long time. You did the math several weeks ago showing people who are making less than $28 an hour can't afford to live here.
Yeah.
That's math. It's
Hmm.
it's pretty unarguable. It's A plus B equals C. It's not there. We live in a world where we are going to continue to lose things until we're gone. And the people who have all the things and take it from us, they aren't smart people. They're broken people who are trying to fill a void they can never fill from the acquisitions. They just can't, because nothing will ever fill that void, because they're hollow. And they're not smart people. Then when they take everything, we're all going down together, them and us. So we need to build a foundation of humanity to move forward. And I know I'm usually happier and such, and I'm being kind of an alarmist and passionate here, but we need to come together. We need to talk to each other. We need to connect with our neighbors.
But I don't
And
think that alarmist is a bad word.
yeah, and for
There's
God's sakes, we got to talk to the youth.
yeah. Oh, I love that. Hmm.
Yeah, the How Patriotic Do You Feel poll came out, and Bo did a version on it this morning. 38% of the people feel extremely good about the country. It's extremely patriotic about the country. 38. That's the lowest it's ever been.
Wow.
And most of those people are over 55 and white
Hmm.
males. Kids, children, or youth between 18 and 34 were 25% feeling extremely good about the country.
Where was this poll?
It's a national poll about patriotism. It'll be out in the next few days. He got a copy of it and
Oh, we
talking
got an
about it
advance.
today.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's talking about it, and the fact is, people don't feel good about the country, and youth don't feel good about the country because they have no future. And Sir Kenneth Robinson has said several times in his TED Talks, we have an inflation of college degrees to where you can get a $15 an hour job for having a master's degree. And that's not sustainable. Our life on this planet is not sustainable. And what happens when you don't sustain, Marwan?
Well, you're gonna have anarchy and unrest.
Or you just won't be here. If you're not sustaining, you're going away.
Right.
And I'm
Well, I
not ready for
mean,
that yet.
we're seeing that already, right? I
Yep.
mean, we have over 300 mass shootings in this country in a half a year.
Yep. And
And so
two
we're,
police officers in Philadelphia were shot at an event as well. They got buried under the Chicago thing, but um, yeah, we have a population pressure. We have an economic pressure. We're about to have food security pressure. I mean, a lot of people are already insecure in their food, but it's going to get worse, and it's going to start affecting the people that it shouldn't affect, which is the middle class, which almost doesn't exist anymore. We have to come together. We have to learn how to take care of each other, and together we can do much more than any of us can do alone. One of my favorite words, synergy.
well, my hope is that, more of us realize that we need to synergize now and not until we come to this precipice of, well, you know what, if we just had done something 6 months previous, and there's going to be so much unnecessary collateral damage.
Well,
And some of that is just trying to hang on, right? It's like, hey, yeah, I love to help, but I'm going down, so I got to keep myself up and my family up. And I don't think I have the bandwidth to do anything else. But it's like, no, we need everyone there. Michael said the link took him
yep,
to the wrong place.
yeah, not sure. Okay. Anyway, you're here now, Michael, and you and I had this conversation the other day, yesterday actually. God, too
Oh,
many
did you
days
guys
go too
meet?
fast. Yeah, we met yesterday morning for coffee
Ah,
and talked.
awesome,
He was a
awesome.
great guy. Um, wow, I had a thought I was going to go to and it derailed here. We do have to come together. Even if you feel you're overwhelmed and you're going down yourself, maybe something somebody else has or can help you with will get you there faster. I mean, to get you back on your feet faster. Together, we can do way more than we think, but we're not taught that. We're taught that we have to make it on our own. We're taught about the rugged individual, and the thing is that that's a fast way to go to an early grave. We have to work together. We have to build a foundation, a human foundation on which to build a bridge to the future. If we don't, we aren't going to be there when the bridge is. We just aren't going to have a future. I mean, the okay. Scientists are saying we have 60 years of arable soil left at the way that we do agriculture because it's killing our soil. It also has no nutritional value, but it's killing our soil. 60 years, we won't be able to grow food. If California fails, when California fails, and it's going to, we're going to end up with 30% of our agriculture in this country going away.
Hmm.
You think food prices are bad now? Wait until then. We're looking at one catastrophe and another, and people are going, well, why hasn't anyone told me about this? I said, well, you don't get reelected by telling people about problems. You don't sell product by taking responsibility for the problems you've created.
Mm.
We don't want to hear about the problems. We would rather watch Jeopardy or whatever else. And you can tell I haven't watched TV in a long time. I have no idea what's on and what the current thing is. But we need to come together and start having real conversations with each other about how to have a human future, about how to create food security. And as I said, you've heard me say this multiple times. I'm going to say it explicitly right now. Get together with your community, find out who gardens, and plant a community garden that you all share in. Find out who in your community works on cars, because somebody does, and help have them work on your small engines and keep your equipment going, and give them a share of the food. I mean, it's about equitability. It's about people sharing their resources together to have more as a total. There's somebody in your neighborhood, likely somebody in your neighborhood has medical experience. Start making a plan about how that looks. And, I know that emergency management in the state of Washington have a plan called Map Your Neighborhood. And they'll come out and do a presentation for you. Reach out to Marwan and I, and we will find resources to bring together to come to your neighborhood and help you guide through this. Okay? We need people talking to each other. That's why we do this. Marwan and I make not a nickel. We both run nonprofits. We do this for you. We're not selling you anything. We're not selling a philosophy. We're not about religion. We're not about politics. We're about bringing people together. That's it. That's the end of the story, 100%. Getting people to work together. That's all we do.
Well, I might say I'm about all of those things. I think we need a new party, not
Yeah.
because I'm a little bit of both, right? So we need a purple party. I like a little bit on the left, and I like a little bit on the right.
Well, that's what the independents are, aren't they? The Purple Party.
I don't know. Independents kind of seem a little. Um, I don't feel like I fit there either. Was that or a libertarian? There's something else. Want to know the
Yep.
biggest thing people back from doing things like providing medical, mechanic, etc. services, liability. That's a big one, right? Because we hear that
Yeah.
about the abandoned buildings and how we can't allow, homeless folks to occupy those spaces because of the liability. And it's like, you know, sign a waiver. You're, there's liability in allowing them to just be out in the elements and the weather, or them kicking in a window or prying off a boarded up window or a door and going in there. So why not work with folks if you're not going to invest in it? Just
Yep.
sign the waiver and let them be in the space.
Be very
Liability is a big
careful.
one.
Be very careful. You're going to, cause lawyers to lose a job.
I mean, but like you said, keep it simple. Some things seem really simple. It's
So
like,
let's talk about liability for just a second.
sure.
Okay. Liability is the viewpoint that you're going to lose something by helping.
Mm,
It's about having, not about doing. Liability is one of the biggest traps we have. And I'm not saying that there isn't liability, but I'm saying that liability has become a reason not to do instead of a reason to do because you're afraid of losing your property, you're afraid of losing in court, you're afraid of it's about fear. Liability is about fear. It's about fear of loss. And that says a lot about how we look at everything in our lives. And this is very important for the conversation we're going to be having next week because we're going to be talking about a future that is very different from the one we have now.
it is fair. I mean, we run businesses, so we do have to assess liability, right?
Yeah,
Um, and it's like, hey, you feed people. There's challenges and risks that come with that. You
yep,
transport people. There's risk that comes with that. You have folks that are
absolutely.
on your property. There's risk. Um, and I think I've gotten to a point in my life where, yeah, let's assess the risk. Let's take the precautions, but we have to move forward.
Yep. Didn't we just do that like at the last barbecue? You and I had a conversation about assessing risk.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Loss of a medical license for performing first aid. And you know what's so interesting about that, Michael? I have I don't think officers should have qualified immunity. And my thought on that is if you're doing the right thing, then you wouldn't need it, right? And if you're gonna have some kind of a qualified immunity, maybe it's someone that has a medical license that is performing first aid, right? It's like I'm trying to save a life. There's gonna be some broken ribs with doing chest compressions or things of that nature, but I'm trying. Um, Again, it seems like common sense, but I guess if
Yeah.
common sense, we'd all have it. If common
And you
sense was
want
common.
and you wonder about the attorney that would take that case and push it.
Well, I mean, what the millions of dollars from the woman that spilled the hot McDonald's coffee in her lap? I mean, she won that. It's like, well, I mean, it's hot
Yeah.
coffee.
And during this conversation, and I'm not disagreeing with anything you've said. Matter of fact, you and I've had this conversation in the background. But I often go, and I've been thinking the same thing for probably 3 decades now. When is enough enough?
That's been my
When
question.
yeah, when do we stop going to lawsuits and keep talking to each other? Because lawsuit is kind of like war is a symbol of failed diplomacy. A
Mm,
lawsuit is a symbol of a failed relationship. Lawsuit is going to war as opposed to having a conversation.
right, but it's easy to go to war with someone I don't care about, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, shouldn't we care more? about people? And if we have a relationship with them, doesn't that make it more likely to care more for people?
Yeah, but you're a stranger. Rear-ended me, and that's my come up.
Well,
I don't
the
need.
rear ending doesn't usually end up in a lawsuit. Rear ending usually ends up with two insurance companies talking to each other and figuring out what needs to go on. I've been in more than my fair share of accidents in my life, and because of the driving I used to do. And I will tell you that we never went to never went to court once.
What kind of driving did you used to do?
I just did lots and lots and lots of miles. I had the front end of my car torn off by a guy who ran a red light
Wow.
right in front of the police department. That was fun. Um, I ended up doing three 360s in the middle of the road with the front end of my car hanging off one side. And I spun. There was this weird intersection where you come around to turn a 90-degree turn into the intersection, and he ran the red light doing about 70, 80 miles an hour. I caught him out of the corner of my eye, managed to swing the car to my right, and almost made it. But his rear wheel well caught my front wheel well, and ripped the front of my car off.
Wow. What kind of car was it?
So it was a Fiat.
The little tiny one?
Yeah,
That's why I like my old school Chevys, the big bodies.
yeah. So I've been rear-ended. I've had that. That was the worst one ever. But I've been rear-ended. I've been run off the road on my motorcycle. Ended up going down on that because someone wasn't paying attention. Um, so yeah, I just when I lived in California, I put a lot of miles on my cars and my vehicles.
Mm.
So, and if you're out there driving in high traffic with people who are, and today I don't drive very much, but I don't want to because people are on their phones, and that's just terrifies me that people text while driving.
Well, there's that, and there's the road rage, right?
Yeah,
There again, it's that hopelessness, right? No one cares about me.
it's our brokenness.
Yeah.
It comes back down to it. We spend so much time on our phones, we don't spend time talking to each other. So, folks, put down your damn phones and go talk to your neighbor.
I say touch some grass. But as we're
Yeah,
rounding out, bridges and foundations. So, do we have any homework for building bridges and foundations?
we do. We need to look at. Okay, so you've heard me say this before, and I'm going to say it again. If you can't imagine a future that is more human, we can never get there. Okay. Point. Michael just said, unless you're watching the show on your phone while driving your car, and please don't do that.
Listen to it. Don't watch it.
Yeah. Um, but we need to be able to imagine it. So your homework is to imagine a human future. What does that look like? What can a bridge to a human future look like? Because that bridge starts us here and gets us there. So start thinking about what that future looks like, and then start thinking about the steps getting there. And anything, just take a piece of paper and write down ideas. And next week, when we talk about a particular vision that exists today about a human future, and we post those questions to the commissioners, the potential commissioners, I would really like to see comments coming in about what your ideas are so that we can post them on the page.
If I can just add a little bit to that assignment there, not only is it good for you to envision what it would look like, but what is your role in that? And what can you do today? You're probably going to be thinking about these macro things, right? The end result of what it looks like. But what are the steps you can take today to move toward that? Last year we didn't do a community barbecue. Last year we didn't do a community breakfast. This year we're doing that, and so that's the something different that we're doing, and that's a big undertaking, and it takes a whole team to do that, but it's worth it, right?
Yep.
Um, we're tired. It is a very expensive undertaking to take on, but it's also very worth it. And so that's a tangible example, and it doesn't need to be that big. I mean, it could be coming in and helping to serve that the barbecue. It could be really that simple. Participating in the conversations and bringing your voice and adding and bringing value to the conversation and a diversity of thought and ideas. Right, many other folks may have some of those similar ideas. I talk about the classroom all the time, where that person has these questions or maybe feels like they have the answer to the question and they don't want to do it. Someone else asks and they're all relieved. It's like, oh, thank goodness you asked that question. Or, they get the answers given. It's like, that's what I was going to say. And it's like, yeah,
And
it's
and
there. You got it.
don't be afraid to be wrong.
Yeah,
Don't be afraid
absolutely.
to be wrong, because when you try anyhow, you come out with some amazing stuff. Your thoughts are valuable, and you'll find more people have those thoughts. Bring it. Don't be afraid to be wrong. As I said, Mary Spender said, I fail better every day. The reason I say I fail better every day is because taking the chance to fail is how we move forward. If we don't take the chance to fail, we don't move. And at this point, we have to make choices. We have to move, and we have to move together. We don't have to agree on everything. We have to agree on some things,
Hmm.
and all of us can agree on some things.
I think that's great actionable homework. With the conversation next week with the commissioners, is there a can you give them the gist of what the conversation is going to entail so they can think about their questions?
Um, I've been teasing you on this for a month now, so I'm
I
not
can
going to
take
give them a
off my
lot.
headphones. I'll take off my headphones and you can talk to the audience. And just put your
Uh,
thumb up when you're ready for me to come back in.
okay, so we're going to be talking about Gene Roddenberry's vision next week and how he planned to get there, and what the reality of that is, and how we can apply it to our understanding of the world today. And so bring your questions about that. Take a look at what they call, and they've written books on the Star Trek economy. It's an economy and a way of looking at things that takes the human being and gives them their inherent value, and that's what we're looking for.
All right. Sounds good. Yeah, I think that would be helpful, and definitely it helps with audience participation. Again, your voice, your puzzle piece is important, and everyone doesn't have access to these individuals. Um, I know I didn't the last year, the year before that, and quite frankly, wasn't even thinking about it. I've always been really focused on my circle and what my job was. When I was teaching at the college, my focus was on my students, not really looking outwardly, but really looking more inward inside the college. And so someone had brought it to my attention that I needed to lift my gaze more, and now here I am. uh, but even with that, a lot of people don't have that opportunity to ask questions or listen, to get through. When you look at the voter pamphlet, it's a couple paragraphs, and for many, that's all they have, if they even look at that. And so this is a real opportunity to go a little deeper and figure out what they're about.
Yeah, and I wanted to point out that I did a review and a kind of a dive into each of the candidates about a month ago, and I had an opinion based on their web pages, their Facebook presence, and what they were saying. But I don't take that as 100%. And when I actually met them at our pancake breakfast and heard what they had to say and posed questions to them, I got a completely different viewpoint of who they are and how they think. When I met with Josh last Friday, I got another viewpoint, and of what it is, and I was incredibly impressed with all of them. And to tell you the honest truth, I wish all three of them could be county commissioners because they each bring something different. And the most beautiful thing is they'd be willing to talk to each other and work with each other to solve problems. And we saw that with Jeff and Naomi. Josh is right in the same kind of mindset. Let's bring it together. Let's have the conversation. Let's figure out what it looks like.
Well, maybe their first order of business is to expand the commission to 7 or to 5 at least.
Legally, you can't do that. I found out you can't do that until we hit 400,000 in the county. That's
Oh,
a state requirement.
how far
So
off
when we
are
hit,
we?
I think we've just crossed 300,000. So
Oh, really?
it doesn't, but they're planning to have 500,000 people here in the next 5 to 7 years or something from the growth plan.
Wow.
But on the other hand, let's talk about climate refugees. If it continues to go downhill in the Southwest and becomes untenable, we're going to end up with climate refugees up here, and that's the kind of people that they aren't planning for us to have when they're talking about 500,000 people in the county. They're talking about businesses and Seattle commuters and all of that. What we are likely to get in all of the Northwest and Northeast is climate refugees from the United States, not people from Mexico or other places. We're talking about people here that are going to be getting out of the area they're in because they can't live there anymore because the climate has changed so dramatically.
Great. 500,000 staying where? In the $1 million condos downtown?
Yeah, and they're all of those, Michael. All of those pieces are in movement right now because the housing markets are crashing all over the country because they've been artificially inflated. That's my opinion. I'm not quoting any economist. Not that I would.
Well, I did a show yesterday. If you want to check that out, it said I just got evicted, and you can look at stats and reports. But what I did is I looked at 3 different cities and really painted the picture.
Yep. And as Marwan and I talked early on, Michael, I'm going to pass this on to you because I know you're caring about the affordable housing, is we were talking about the housing market crashes, and neither Marwan or I could ever remember rents going down in a time that the housing market crashed, which we found kind of interesting, in that thinking process. And I can actually almost hear the excuses and the arguments for why that's the case. And yeah.
All right. Well, as usual, that is our time. We're 3 minutes over.
Yeah.
Whew,
so you have to give the inspiring quote today because I've been Daddy Downer.
So the inspiring quote is this Saturday at 10 a.m. We're going to start barbecuing for the folks downtown. So if you want to come and help, we will be on MLK, in between, right next to the Marvin Williams Center. So if you want to come and meet people. Talk with people, because that's part of it, right? It's not just talking to administrators and politicians and organizers, but it's actually talking to the people that are already suffering the most. And come and be a part, and lend your voice. We will be doing the podcast from there, so we do want to elevate their voices first and foremost, but we want to hear what you have to say also. And so come down, show them some love. And we'll be, barbecuing hamburgers and hot dogs and all the good stuff. So, come and see us this Saturday.
Okay, and then one final note, just because you and I forgot to mention it, Resilient Ecosystems has a new board member.
Oh, yeah.
You want to announce that?
All right. Well, the newest board member of Resilient Ecosystems is Martitha May. You all know her from Mr. Redondo and Kayak, and now she works for the Kitsap County Courthouse down there with Judge Flood. So, shout out to her. She's a fantastic addition, definitely a huge heart in this community. So, welcome, Martitha.
Awesome.
All right. So, with that, we will see you next Wednesday. Again, that's 4040 Wheaton Way, Suite 203. If you want to be in the studio audience next Wednesday for the commissioners, if not, check the link. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And for Mark, I am Marwan. This is The Conduit. We'll see you next week. Well, I'll see you in like 55 minutes. All right, everyone. Bye bye.